Hey everybody, this is Jim the Tabletop Engineer, and welcome to a live chat. Let me turn up that light behind me right here. And that might make it, yeah, that'll make it a little better. So, welcome to this live chat. This is sort of impromptu. I do that because with my work and other things going on, family and stuff, I never know what my day is going to look like. So today I managed to get all of my lasering caught up. Not done with it, but it's caught up to the stuff that has to ship and stuff like that. Main reason is I have to go out of town tomorrow through Saturday night. So I'm kind of going to be, I really had to, I got up real early this morning to get a lot of lasering done, and I shot some videos, and now I'm sort of like, okay, what could I do? Well, I'll do a live chat. So hopefully, I'll get some people on here. And if you're out there and you want to say hello, just chime in the chat. And I've got some things I can probably talk about. What I'm going to be doing while I talk to y'all is I'm going to be painting. This is a miniature. I know it looks weird with the white. That's because this is going to get flames. This is Nyarlathotep. I think I pronounced it. Nobody quite knows how to pronounce it. Nyarlathotep. This is one of the old ones from the Cthulhu mythos. And this is one of the bad guys that came with the Cthulhu Death May Die game. And I want to start playing a new bad guy. So I'm going to get him painted up, or it painted up, and hopefully get it done in this one. I'm also going to be painting the Fantastic Four. I play this game called Marvel United. And here's the Thing, and Johnny Storm, and Sue Storm, and Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. So I want to paint them up and get them to where I can play them with the game. And if you're at work and you can't chime in, or you're listening on headphones, I understand. Trust me, it's like Eastern time. It's still business day here, but glad to have you if you're joining me, and hopefully you can hopefully you'll enjoy what I'm going to talk about. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, something happened this last weekend at the game store. It's always at the game. I guess when your world involves gaming, and you're at the game store, inevitably some of the weird, crazy, and odd things that happen to you, that's where they're going to happen. So it is kind of weird. It's like I do this a lot, and I'll say, you won't believe what happened at the gaming store. But yeah, a lot of things happen at the gaming store because I'm there quite a bit. So anyway, there were a couple guys. They were playing Warhammer, and by the way, I have nothing against Warhammer. It's a cool game. I get that it's got a huge fan base. It's not my thing, but I can enjoy looking at the miniatures that have been painted. Some of these guys, they really put a lot of effort and work into their models, and so as a gamer, I can appreciate the miniatures. Not such a big fan of the rules, stuff like that. So I was there, and I was playing some other games, but during breaks and stuff, I'll walk around and look around look at things that people are doing and stuff like that. And so I just happened to be walking by. And by the way, at the game store, there's always a Warhammer 40K game going on. I mean, you could go in there they open at noon on weekdays. You could go in there at noon, and there are two guys that they're at the door, ready to play 40K. It's kind of funny. So anyway, these two guys they were well into the game, and again, I know sort of the basics of the rules and stuff like that, but this one guy, and I doubt they're members of my channel or anything like that, subscribers, so they probably won't know. I'd be surprised if you're talking about my table. One of the players, who I don't know, had 100 miniatures. 100. I'm not exaggerating. I should have taken a picture. Had 100 miniatures on the table. And what wowed me about it was they were all the same color. They were all they're what do you call it? Space Marines. He had well over 100 Space Marines on that table, and they were all painted. And don't ask me what the faction or chapter or whatever I guess it's chapter. Don't ask me what it was. I don't remember. It was a red. They were red, but that probably covers quite a bit. So yeah, it's I was just watching. I said, hey, do you guys mind if I just watch? And they're pretty cool. They're like, yeah, man, just watch. And so as I'm watching, uh, the guy picks up literally, literally 40, 40 dice, 40 D6, and he rolls them. I mean, if it wasn't 40, it was close. Um, I didn't say anything because I mean, it's always a shock to me to see how many dice 40K players throw at the table. That's what the game is. It's a dice chucker. Um, there is strategy to it. I'm not gonna say there's not. There is some strategy and gameplay to it, but really what it comes down to is you roll your dice, and then the other player rolls or to attack, and then the other player rolls their defense dice, and the defense dice, the number rolled is equal to the number of hits that the original roller got. And I'm probably simplifying here because there are other there's modifiers and stuff like that. But what made me laugh was they um they weren't arguing. They were friends. I'm pretty sure they were friends. The guy rolls his dice and then he starts counting. He's okay. There's 1 hit, 2 hits, the 3 hits, 4 hits, and he's and that's why I know that there were like 40 dice because we stood there and we waited and we waited and we waited. And he came back and he finally goes, okay, it's 17. I think it was 17. I'm probably making that number up, but I think that's what sticks in my mind. He's like, 17 hits. And then the other guy picks up, I don't, he had his own dice. So sometimes I see the players, what they'll do is they'll take the dice that the person rolled to attack, the hits, and then the player will take all the dice off and then they'll roll those hit dice for the defense dice. They didn't do that on this one. That's the way I usually see it played. But so the other guy gets it and rolls like, I don't know, 17 defense dice. And he goes, okay, that's 1 miss, 2 miss, and he's 3 miss, 4 miss. And he finally goes, okay, that's 10 miss and hits or whatever. And so the guy removes, I think, 7 soldier types. And it's the other player's turn. Well, the other player, he moves his miniatures into position. He goes and he rolls his dice. And he didn't have he had some, not tanks, but some vehicles and things like that. So he wasn't rolling 40 dice, but he rolled a lot. He rolled like 15 or 20. And then he counted. Now, here's what's interesting. I was taking a break from a game I was playing. We decided to take like a 15-minute break. So, and these guys, when they say 15 minutes, somebody usually to the table at such and such. So we knew we had 15 minutes. So this guy takes his turn and he just he just moved like one group, right? The other guy had done like, I guess, I don't know, maybe I missed something, but he only moved one massive group. So this guy moves a group and he attacks, and same thing, X hits, then the guy rolls the dice for stuff like that. And then the guy, the second player, he moved another army, and when they move them, they place them in called cohesiveness, or they don't move every one and measure each one. What they do is they move one and then they move a bunch around it. And I guess in some instances, you do have to kind of be careful about your measurements. But most of the time, these guys are just moving them as a group. And what you have to do is you have to then measure, like, what's the closest one to the enemy or something like that. And there are rules about movement, so you can't just like jinx it and move one. There are rules. But anyway, I watched this guy do this, and he attacked, and they rolled dice, and they rolled defense dice. And then he did one more. He moved 3 different groups and attacked. And I was kind of into it, right? And when he finished, I said, well, I got to get back to my table. I went back to the table. They were all sitting there, and I felt really bad because they had been waiting like 10 extra minutes. I had been standing there watching these 2 guys take a turn each, and it was 25 minutes of worth. I just, look, again, I'm going to tell you that I have nothing against Warhammer, but I don't play games that take 25 minutes for 2-player turns. That's just, I play skirmish war games mostly. And when I got back to the table, they're like, we didn't want to interrupt you. We thought you were, because I was talking to these guys, right? I was asking them questions and stuff like that. And they're like, we didn't want you seemed like you were in it or whatever. And I told them, I said, no, guys, you should have come and said something. I said, they each took a turn and I was just asking some questions and I wasn't interrupting them. I wasn't slowing them down. But my friends were like, are you serious? I said, yeah, they were like, they were only one turn in. And, it reminded me that I watched one time a friend of mine play a Warhammer game, the whole game. It was, I want to say 3.5 hours that I was standing at that table with them, watching them play this game. They were trying to get me into the game. And, well, that was the one way to not get me into the game, was to make me stand there for 3 hours and watch. But, it happened. And like I said, I'm sharing it with you only because it just reinforced to me why I really like skirmish war games. They're faster. Uh, they may not have, all the different variety that 40K brings with all the chapters and the vehicles and the air vehicles and things like that. But man, I could play 3 games of Frostgrave in what my buddies that day played with just one game. And I don't even know how long they were there. When I left a couple, I should have made note of that. When I left a couple hours later after finishing, they were still there. Now, I don't know if they had started a new game or not, and I'm not going to even guess whether they did or not, because they might have. But my gut tells me that they did not, because if it took 30 minutes for one turn, I gotta think it was taking, hours and hours to play a whole game. My son was just in a 40K tournament this weekend that lasted both Saturday and Sunday. Each day they played only 3 games. I mean, yeah, I was told that. They told me, yeah, during tournaments, man, you could be here all day and just play a few games. I'm like, man. I mean, listen, if that's what you really enjoy, and I will say that the 40K world has some really cool, it has some really cool like lore, and stuff like that. But no, not for me. Hey, Eric, how you doing, by the way? Um, Again, not knocking it. It's I don't knock people's game. Every game out there, there is somebody, or well, not somebody. There's a bunch of people that enjoy playing it. It's just not for me. And I just when I was watching them play, I didn't get the enjoyment out of it that they obviously were. They really enjoyed it. And part of it I know is painting up your armies and things like that, because I enjoy painting to a point. I don't think I would want to paint 100 miniatures. And I mean, seriously, there had to be 100 on that table. I thought that was crazy. He was heavy on like infantry and very light on anything else, which I don't know if that's a strategy or maybe a cost thing. Maybe because I do know that some of those vehicles can be, 80, 100 plus dollars. And, some people can't do that. I'm very fortunate that I might be able to get into it, but I don't want to. I don't want to be spending that kind of money on, I don't want to be spending that kind of money. So anyway, what else happened this weekend? Well, when I was at the game store, we had to say goodbye to one of our gamers. Name is Jeff. Jeff and his wife moved to South Carolina. She got a dream job, and we hated to see them go because they're such great people. And Jeff was probably very, very key, if not the most important person in our Marvel Champions card game group, because he would run games, he would demo games, he always had an answer to the rules and things like that. He was sort of the de facto leader, and he managed the Discord and he managed the chat group on our phones. And so when we got word that he and his wife were going to be moving away, it hit us pretty hard. I mean, a lot of us, we know we'll see him again because it's like a 3-hour drive, and he can come back to Atlanta on weekends maybe, and if he ever wants to. But it was tough saying goodbye to him. But we had to do that. We actually did that on Thursday night before Saturday. So Saturday, when I was at the gaming store, Jeff wasn't there, and it was really weird. It was really, really, really weird. It's time consuming. You have swarm armies like orcs, Tyranids, Imperial Guard. Yeah, yeah. Hey, Tyler. Yeah. Because like I said, every one of them. It wasn't like, now I will say this. I watched a historical one time. Actually, more than once, but I remember this. I watched a historical game, and they put their soldiers on trays, and they would push a tray forward, and it would, it would move all those minutes. They weren't doing it. They were doing like, and I just thought, oh man, this is crazy. But I guess if you play the game and your opponent's doing it, you know that you're going to be in that position, right? He's going to have to be, or she's going to have to be waiting on you to move your armies and stuff. It just seems like a really slow process. I don't know. I was ready to pull my hair out at one point when they were discussing, like, there was a question that came up on one of them about moving one of their soldier types because there was a piece of terrain, and they got into a debate of whether or not the miniature could be placed around the corner, but it was within range. And I don't remember the whole. I just sort of tuned out because I was like, whatever, man. I just couldn't pay attention anymore. But yeah, they got into a good debate about some question about movement, and it was related to that. It was like he was moving a bulk of his army, and so they debated for, I don't know, 5 minutes, and I sat there and tried to watch and listen, but drove me crazy. Let's see. They put a time limit, 3 hours per game, and if you don't finish, and then run. So do they just do whoever's furthest ahead is the winner of that game? I assume. I don't know. That would seem like a horrible way to lose a game if you had the strategy, but you just couldn't get in position fast enough to pull off your strategy and win the game within the 3 hours. But I don't know. I don't have to worry about that. My games usually finish much quicker. And by the way, this Friday, for those of you who like my Frostgrave videos, I'm doing something a little different on Friday. The campaign will continue the following Friday, but this Friday I'm releasing a video. It's a long one. It's probably well over an hour. Brian Swift, who's one of my friends and members here, he came over a little over a week ago. Came over to the house, drove here from Birmingham, and he wanted me to teach him how to play Frostgrave. And dude, when somebody says teach me how to play Frostgrave, I'm in. So he came over and we set up the game and we played for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I can't remember. We videoed it. I shot video, and I'm going to be uploading that game Friday. I'm doing the last bit of editing on it, and it went really, really well. I mean, it pays when you have a friend. He's a friend of mine. Even if he was a stranger, I think we would have had a good time. But Brian, I hope he'll continue to play the game, and come back over sometime. We'll play another one. But I'm going to be putting that up on Friday for those of you who watch from my Frostgrave stuff. And I just, like I said, I want to thank Brian for taking the time to cover. He came over for, not just that, but he did some other stuff. But it was definitely fun. Pretty much whoever's ahead in points by that point. Yeah, that's what I kind of figured. So here so far, I've got Reed and Invisible Girl. Sue Storm. I'm avoiding Johnny Storm. I need to watch a video on painting fire effects. I'm very nervous about painting him right now, so I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is paint the thing. So we're getting the Brian Jim Frostgrave game. Yeah. I won't tell you. I won't give you any I won't tell you how it went. We'll just you just watch it and see. But he did have a good time, and I did too. It's always good to play a game of Frostgrave, but it's also good to play a game with a friend. I'm actually toying around with, like, for people in the Atlanta area or even in Alabama, like Eric, for example. I'm toying with setting up a Frostgrave tournament, just a chance to play the game sometime in the summer, I think would be best. And I've got to figure out if I would host it at my house, which might be a problem because I only have one gaming table. Um, if we hosted it at a gaming store, what I'd like to do is film it, but I'd have to get permission from the store to do that, and I don't know. We'll have to see. But if that's something you might be interested in, let me know because uh, I had so much fun playing with Brian that I could easily see uh, doing it with some more people. We used to have a pretty good sized group here in Atlanta of Frostgrave players, but it's since dwindled. And I usually do get a game in with a friend of mine, Rob, but we haven't played in a while. It's been bad timing either with me going out of town, doing family stuff, or him, you know. But it's mostly on me. I have to be honest. It's mostly on me. But yeah, I'm toying around with that. So so I'm going to bring this up, but I am going to a longer video on this, but I'll talk to you about. I'm actually hoping to shoot that video tonight. Um, so politics aside, I don't care what your politics are, and I mean that in the nicest way. People are entitled to their own opinion. They're entitled to their own, you know, thoughts on the way the country's going, the way the world's going, stuff like that. So politics aside, we're dealing now with the reality of these tariffs put on uh, pretty much all countries. I mean, China's the big one, obviously, because in our gaming world, China is not one of, is the biggest provider of games, right? Almost every Kickstarter board game, almost all miniatures, uh, books, those kind of things. I'm not even going to hazard a guess. I would say well over 80%. That could be high. Maybe it's 75. I don't know, 5% or more of our gaming stuff is made in China. Does it say made in China? Doesn't, but um, so we've got these tariffs, right? And right now, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that China, the stuff coming from China right now pretty much has a blanket 40+%. It varies based on what it is we're importing. So I've been getting all these emails, and maybe you have too, from gaming companies that I have bought their games or I'm in communication with, or they know who I am and stuff like that. They have newsletters, they send out weekly things, whatever. I've been getting a lot of of emails from gaming companies uh, that are expressing their either opinion or their concerns about the tariff stuff. And one of them recently, blatantly said, "Look, we would go out of business if we have to absorb that cost." So they admit they're going to pass it on to the consumer. Now, I am not an economics or financial guru. I'm not a business person, but I've watched a couple videos, and I stayed at a Howard Johnson last week. So, um, as I understand it, let's say that I buy this object from China for $10 and I sell it for 20. So it's got 100% markup, right? I pay them $10. They ship it to me. And let's say in that $10 that includes the shipping cost. And I know that's lowball, but it's easy for the numbers, right? So let's say that this $10 item, when it arrives to me, it's paid, the shipping's paid for, my costs, are there or whatever. It's $10. I mark it up to 20. So I'm making back the original 10 that I paid China, and I'm also making a $10 profit. Okay. Now, if China has a tariff placed on it for exports, now again, this is my understanding. Let's say that the percentage is 10%. 10%. So when China ships the object to the US, they get my $10, but they're supposed to charge they're going to get charged $1, right? $11, 10%. They're going to get charged 10% to sell it back to me. Now they're selling it to me for 10, the stand it. So that means that $1, they're actually having to, they're going to have to charge me $11 because they don't want to eat. They have to eat the cost, right? They have to pay that. Now, I know that in some cases, the tariff can be paid by the receiving end. And in some cases, it's paid by the shipper or whoever's sending it, right? It doesn't matter. There is this, at 10%, there's this $1 that somebody has to pay for. Now, if China eats that cost, they pay the dollar. They've really only made $9 on the item they sold me, right? Because I gave them 10. Their cost, they say it costs $10 to make it and ship it to you. So I give them $10. They ship it to me, but then when it hits the US, they get that 10%. So they have $10 in their bank from me, and they take $1 and give it to the US. They've made $9 technically, right? That's their revenue or their gross. I don't know if that's their profit. It's their gross revenue. All right. But let's say that they don't want to pay that. So what they do is they say, Mr. Kelly, we know we were going to charge you $10, but now we're going to charge you $11. Sorry, but we have to pay this tariff. Okay. I give them $11. They ship it to me. But let's say on my website, I still sell it for 20. Well, if I paid them 11 and I'm selling it for 20, I've made $9. Somebody, China or me, is getting less than they used to. Now, here's the real funny part. Not funny part at all, but interesting part. I can raise my price to $21, right? And if I sell it, I paid 11, I made 21, so I'm still making my $10 profit margin, right? That's how it's supposed to work. Dungeon Craft has a video today on tariffs. No kidding. Are you serious? Well, maybe I'll delay mine. Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate that. I've got 2 Erics on here now. Appreciate that. That's nice to hear. So I can raise my rate to make up for it, right? China doesn't care. China's like, hey, you gave us our $11. You can sell it for whatever you want. But here's the problem. Joined right now. Looks like I should launch. Okay. Hey, David, welcome. A lot of the stuff that we sell in the United States, people get used to paying a certain price for it. And when you have to raise your price, people don't like that. I don't like it. I mean, when I go to the store and I pay X for this, in a month, I want to pay X for it. And so prices are really starting to rise. The reason sometimes they don't rise is because companies have stock already purchased, right? Let's say I knew the tariff was coming, 100 of them, of those $10 items at $10, and I store them in my warehouse. Well, I can still sell those at 20 and still make my profit. And then after I sell those, we're now in the $11 cost. So a lot of companies, especially American companies, have stored stock in American warehouses or offshore, and those can still be sold at the regular price. It delays a price increase on the consumer. Okay. Now here's the problem. Right now, everything is rising in prices. So my kid has a birthday coming up, and he wants the G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip. Some of you may get that joke. He wants the G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip. Well, G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip was $30. Now it's $40. Things don't usually jump $1, $1.50. They jump $5, $10. And it's some businesses out there that legitimately raise it based on just what their increase has been. But most companies don't do that. If my price goes up $1, I'm probably going to pass that on to the consumer by raising my price $2. Okay. There's a lot of different reasons to do that. But what is my point? Here's my point. The gaming industry that we're in. And again, I'm going to do a longer video on this, I think. the gaming industry we're in is an interesting animal because I said 75, 80%, maybe more of our hobby, those prices will go up, which means the game sellers, all that, they will raise their prices. It's coming. Don't know how long it'll last. I fully expect that it will hit us tomorrow, if not next month. It will hit at some point. We will see a price increase. But I bring this up because when I was at hey Eric, when I was at the gaming store, I was thinking about these things, and so at one point I went browsing. And I took photos of certain things and their price. And this was like a week ago. I plan on going back in about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, and I'll have to get those photos organized better so I can remember what I shot. A lot of it was Warhammer stuff. Some of it was what's that game? Star Wars, not Legion, Shatterpoint, Star Wars Shatterpoint stuff. I took some pictures of that. I also took some pictures of War Machine. Is that the one? Yeah, War Machine. War Machine stuff. Because all of a sudden that has gotten popular at the gaming store. People are playing War Machine, which is like, I guess it's sort of like Warhammer. It's got armies and things like that, but it is different. The stories, stuff like that. Anyway, I will be going back to look at a price comparison because I'm curious to know price is. Do I think things are going to go up $1, $2? No, I think they're 5, 10, maybe even $20. $100 item is probably going to go 120, 140. That's my best guess. Just because we've all been there where price increases hit us and we saw what they did, but we truly don't know. But here's my thing, and this is what my video is going to be about. Right now, there are a small number of gaming companies, and I'm going to use one as an example because I know him and I know his games. Tom Tullis with Fat Dragon Games, he has a new game out called Battle something Valkyrie. I just went blank on it. Battlefront Valkyrie, I believe. He sells a PDF rulebook and STL miniatures, among other things. There's some other things you can print, like gauges and stands for the miniatures and stuff like that. But there is this growing number, and it's not big. It's not big, but it is starting to become a thing of game creators who are selling their games in digital format, meaning the rule book is a PDF. The STL files are meant for you or someone else to 3D print, and then you play the game. I tell you that if I were companies like War Machine, Steam Forged Games, thank you. Makes me feel better about my recent miniature buying binges pre-tariff. Yeah, I mean, who knows? We don't know what's coming. But like, for example, Warhammer prices, they go up, right? How they go up all the time. And Warhammer players seem to just smile and not shake it off and just they buy it, right? They pay for it. But you got to think that there has to be this pain. And I don't know what that is. I know what my pain threshold would be. Like, for instance, if something cost me $10 and it was a game I really enjoyed, and then everything tripled, no, I'm not playing that game anymore. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But Warhammer stuff costs a lot of money. Like a box of 20 miniatures, Space Marines is usually like 50 or 60 bucks. Sometimes you find them on sale or you can eBay and check eBay and stuff like that. But these miniatures, just the miniatures can be 50, 60 bucks for 20. Now, Frostgrave miniatures, you can get 20 on sprues for like about 30 some odd dollars, but however many gamers of us out there that play war games, right? Miniatures, either metal or sprues, we glue them together, we paint and we play. There has to be a pain threshold where people go, enough's enough. It's a game and I can't pay $10 for a minute per, mini or whatever. It's insane. $35 for a single character miniature. Yeah, yeah, Warhammer does have like individual like boss miniatures that are like important figures in the lore, and they sell them individually, and yeah, they're like 30, 40, $50. And if they're limited editions, they can be even more than that. But now we have this option. I've got two 3D printers back there. Now, these are FDM. They're not resin printers. But one of my friends, Brian, told me that resin printers have come down in price, and we know they have. They've come down in price. They're also getting easier to use, like user friendly, like pour the resin in, push the button like a toaster, right? I don't think they're quite there yet, but Brian tells me that there are some 3D some resin printers out there that are load the file, push the button. It reads the resin. It knows what, like it scans when you pour it, you scan there's a code on the bottle. It knows the viscosity and the heating or whatever, all the special elements, the variables for that resin, and you push the button and boom, you get this perfect miniature that is like, because the printer knows how much to heat or what it's, I don't talk resin. I know FDM has temperatures, but resin has different things that affect it. But here's what I think. It has to be true that these gaming companies that produce these miniatures that are so expensive, they've got to be panicking right now. And they've also got to be looking at options. For the longest time, people have screamed that I just went blank on the name for the company that makes Warhammer, Games Workshop. Games Workshop, forever and ever, people have said, you should sell your STLs. You should let us use, non-legit, non-branded or non-official Warhammer miniatures, because you can get them. You can get just about every non-official Warhammer miniature. You can find them on My Manufactory and other places. But Fantasy Game or Games Workshop says, no, you want to play in our tournaments, you have to use official miniatures. You want to, if you want to, and they go after people too, who they tend to say they violate their IP or whatever, but that's a different story. They've got to be worried. They've got to be worried because they don't know what is a player's pain threshold. How much can the majority of our players take before they say, we're done with this, especially for big games like 40K, where you're fielding armies of 40, 50, 100 miniatures versus, say, Frostgrave, where you're playing 10 miniatures max, right? I truly do believe that probably in the next year, over the next year, this year and maybe into next year, we're going to start seeing not Games Workshop, not yet, maybe one day, but we're going to start seeing game companies move to that digital model. They are going to launch Kickstarters for X war game or Y board game or whatever, board games and war games. They are going to launch Kickstarters, and you're going to have to read the fine print and read carefully, because I think we're going to slowly see companies saying we're moving to a digital product where we're putting it on the end user, the player, to download the PDF, print it if they want to, because there's services like Lulu, and there's other one. Lulu's mine, but even DriveThru RPG will print out rule books for you. Now they have to sell them, right? They have to sell you buy the PDF from them, or you buy the print copy from them. You can't send them a PDF and say, hey, print this for me. But you can with certain companies like Lulu. But there are publishers, there are printer companies out there that will print a rule book for you. There will be tiers of these Kickstarters where they say, if you back at this level, you'll get the rule book. If you back at this level, you're going to get the rule book plus 10 STLs, so you can print out one army or 10 miniatures or what have you. There'll be another tier. You get the all in. You get all 50 STLs plus the rule book plus the lore book and things like that. But it's all going to be delivered digitally. Now, Kickstarter automatically is built to do that. If you've not backed any PDF onlys or or STL only Kickstarters, they're there all the time. You get digital. When I create a Kickstarter, when I upload one of my zines, for example, or when I'm funding one of my zines, when I list the items, it will ask me, are you sending a physical product or a digital? You have or both. You can say, no, it's only physical. No, it's only digital, or it's a combination. Like I send out a PDF with when you buy a print copy of my zine, you get the PDF. We're going to start seeing that as gamers. We're going to start seeing more companies that reached a point where they go, you know what, in order for us to stay in business, we can't send China an order to China for $50 a box for 20 miniatures that they've got the sculpt. They hire a sculptor, they get the miniatures, and then they send them to China. Now, for those of you who don't understand manufacturing, when you develop a sculpt, whether it's a physical one or a digital one, let's just say the physical one adds a little more steps to it, but the digital one, when you send that to China, they're not going to run, and every box has 50, right? And they're selling 1,000 boxes. Got it? They're not going to print 5,000 of those miniatures on their 5,000 3D printers like what we have in our workshops. That's not how it works. They will make a mold. They will there's different types of molds and different types of manufacturing for that. But they're going to mass produce it, and that costs money. And a game, like let's say I'm selling this box and it comes with 10 miniatures in it, and I'm doing it with China, they're going to mass produce those. And in order to not print those minis, but to mold or cast those miniatures, there's some upfront costs to get those molds made, or whatever the process is that they do. And somebody pays for that, and it's usually the game creator. And so when they kickstart, you'll see Kickstarter. This is what kills me. Unless you are a professional Kickstarter with a company that knows all the numbers, the bottom line, and everything. How many of you have seen this? You go look at a Kickstarter, and it looks awesome. It's a box this big. It comes with 20 stacks of cardboard tiles, 60 miniatures, 40 dice, 80 cards. It's this massive board game, right? Okay. Every one of those components, they have a manufacturing method to make them, whether it's printing a card and then cutting it, or making a miniature, or stamping the die with a logo or symbols or whatever. There's all these processes. When I, as a creator, contact China and say, this is what I want, how much are you going to charge me per box to make this? Well, China will do its math, and they'll send back and they'll go, we can do it for $50 a box. Okay, $50 a box. That means I'm probably going to sell it for $100. So when you see a board game that's $100, I'm going on past experience and talking to other people. You're going to probably, the game creator is probably paying between 30 and 50 per game, per big box, based on how many they're buying. It's a quantity. The more you buy, the price goes down. Other countries will step up to do cheaper. Yes, there are options, but here's the deal. So as the game creator, I know it's $50 a box. Well, when you launch a Kickstarter, it asks you to set your funding goal. So $50. If I set my goal to 50,000, that means I need to sell 1,000 boxes, right? So, and where did I get the 1,000 from? And why did I set it to 50? Well, China says if you buy 500, you get them for this price. If you buy 1,000, you get it for this price. So I go, ooh, 1,000. I think I can do that based on my last Kickstarter, because I'm a professional board game designer, right? Based on the last one, I suspect I could probably sell 1,000, but we won't lose money because I know that it's 50 per. I'll charge shipping on the end. Like when the product is ready to fulfill, I'll send all my backers a charge for shipping, which it used to not be like that. And so if I need to get that 1,000, I'll set my minimum goal for 50,000. And if let's say we raise 40,000, well, everybody gets a refund. Nobody's credit card is charged, and China doesn't get its money, and I don't get my game. But let's say that I get 1,001 backers. Okay, 1,001. So I've raised $50,000, 50,000 and $50, right? Now here's the deal. In retail, that game's going to cost you $100. But aren't going to pay retail. They want a price break when they do a Kickstarter. So what I'm really going to do is I'm not going to set a funding goal of 50,000. I'm going to set a goal of 100,000. Why? Because I want to make a $50,000 profit because I have bills to pay and my kid wants the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip, right? I have lighting, air conditioning, employees, artists, whatever. So I'm going to charge 100,000. Well, let's say I make the $100,000. Well, good. 50 if I set it to 100,000 and I'm charging 100 per box, right? That means 1,000 backers are paying me $100. I got $100. The game gets made. I don't have any for retail because I don't have enough money to buy retail versions, and retail is a whole different animal if you want to go that route. Games like companies like CMON and those, they know the business of that. That is outside of my range of expertise. What I'm telling you is, how many of you have seen Kickstarters of a great game and the funding goal is $10,000, $40,000? Now that you're hearing what I'm talking about, when I see a new game on Kickstarter that is attempting to raise $10,000 for a game that is in retail would be $100, $150. If it's not a game company that knows what they're doing, and by knows what they're doing, I mean, if it's not a game company that says, you know what, we'll set it low so we can start triggering stretch goals faster, because we know we're going to get 1,000 backers. We know that we have this is an expansion, 1,000 gamers, and we figure some new ones have come on board. We'll sell at least 1,200 or 1,500. So they know they're going to meet their funding goal, but they also know they're going to get. You've seen it. You've seen games that have a $10,000 funding, and when they end, they've raised $10 million, $1 million or $7 million or whatever. We've all seen it. Those are game companies that know what they're doing. They know they have a finger on their budget. They know how much X cost and what they're going to sell it for. They know the time it's going to take to print that and get it in the box and things like that. They know their business. The ones you need to be not just scared of, but worried for. And I'll tell you why worried in a second. Scared for is when you back a new game company and they don't know what they're doing and they're asking for 10 grand. And the retail box is going to be 100, but they're going to give it to you for $80. $80. Most of the time, and this is just, I have a manufacturing background, sort of. I studied industrial. I understand the math and some of the variables. Here's what's going to happen. Inevitably, every month there are Kickstarters that launch and succeed, and the creators go bankrupt, or they end up getting a credit card and having to pay out of their own pocket because they don't know how to do the math to make sure that they can buy the quantity they need and then add shipping in and there's extra costs that come into all the time. China will call you and say, hey man, you asked for this and we gave it to you, but now you're wanting it to be polished or whatever, or laminated. Well, that's going to add another $20,000. I know game creators. I have talked to them who have gotten in over their head because they didn't know how to do the math and they ended up having to pay out of pocket. Now, a lot of them, those are the Kickstarters that get the funding, and then all of a sudden you never hear, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. You stop hearing from them. They disappear. I have backed at least 3 or 4 Kickstarters in the many years that I've been doing Kickstarters that I never got the product because they did not know what they were doing when it came to coordinating the costs or the shipping or whatever. They missed the ball and they just ghosted us, right? They just disappeared. They leave 100 backers or 1,000 backers or 5,000 backers in the comment section, just going at them. They get threats of legal action, stuff like that. That happens. That's what you should be scared of. You should be worried because this is going to, I believe this is going to, if we're not careful, this is going to happen more and more. And you got to be worried for these game creators because it affects them, right? It affects them and families. And by the way, if you're joining me late, we are talking about tariffs and gaming. And it's been a long chat. So you may want to go back and watch from the beginning. But the tariffs raising the prices on things, we're going to start seeing more and more Kickstarters where these creators, in order to offset the risk, and these are creators who kind of know what they're doing, right? In order to offset the risk that I just explained about pricing and stuff like that, we're going to start seeing more and more digital Kickstarters. For this price, you get the PDF of the rule book and you get the STLs. We deliver those to you, and now if you play the game, go print the book if you want to print copy, and you have to 3D print the STLs. And if you don't have 3D printers, there are services out there that will do it for you. But it's coming. It's coming. That is my prediction, based on a lot of factors, but also just based on, I won't say common sense, but just pondering on this a little bit. If I am going to launch a new war game right now, let's say I have this war game sitting in front of me. It has 20 miniatures, some cards, some dice, and a game board. If I've contacted China and they say, yeah, we can do it. We can do 1,000 copies at $50 a box. Okay. And that's with the tariff, right? They're like, okay, cost to us, or your cost is going to be this, and we're adding in the 20%, 40%, whatever that tariff is, they're adding it in. These game creators, and I'm sitting there, I go, whoa, what happened? You last year it was $40 for the box. Now you're telling me it's going to be $50. Well, I just launched my Kickstarter because last year I did it for $40, and I just figured, it'd be roughly the same. And I've already raised $100,000, but now my 100,000 is only going to buy 500 boxes, not 600 boxes. Do you follow my math? Be on the alert, because right now I have taken the wallet out, and I am in to at least 6 different gaming Kickstarters that I've gotten into in this year, January to now. Just this year alone, I've backed about 5 or 6. When I checked last night, it was 5. 5 games that either just ended funding or they're close to ending funding, and now the tariffs hit. And let me tell you, before China does a bit of work, you have to send them the money. They don't do it you could do it on credit card. They don't do anything on a handshake or hey, my Kickstarter's right at $90,000. Go ahead and start the processes. No, China, when you, as a game creator, want to get your game made, you have to send them payment in advance. And sometimes it depends on the manufacturer. Sometimes you can send it in installments. Sometimes they require 50% up front. And there are a few Chinese manufacturers that I know personally that I've worked with in the past that they go, okay, it's 50% plus all machining costs, meaning any setups or anything like that. Here's what's going to happen. My prediction: in the next 3 to 6 months and going forward, somewhere in the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to start hearing about Kickstarter X, Kickstarter Y that does not have enough funds to complete the project. They're going to send a project update out to their backers, and it's going to say something like, listen, when we did the Kickstarter, we did the math and it was $50 a game. But the tariffs, China is wanting to hit us with, China is now passing the tariff cost on to us. The game has now gone up to $60. We only raised enough to do boxes, 1,000 times $50,000. But now we have to pay $60,000 to China, and we don't have a retail option, right? This is just Kickstarter. We need 60,000, and we only raised 50. That, me as the game creator, I have to get the credit card out and add 10,000 of my own money And I'm not going to get that back on my Kickstarters because it's not retail, right? I told you this is the item price. You paid it. You expect your delivery. You expect it to arrive. Raise your hand, and I'm raising my hand here, if you have gotten an email recently from a Kickstarter that says, we may have to add a fee after the fact to cover some extra costs. And here's the thing. The one that I'm thinking of, it specifically mentioned that it would probably be done at the shipping portion. So they get the item in. What they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and probably pay credit card or out of their own account. They're going to cover it. Then they're going to hit you on the shipping. Because why? Because shipping isn't locked in. You haven't paid for shipping yet. So they can send you an email that says, hey, listen, in our Kickstarter, we told you that it was probably going to be in the US, it was going to be $25 shipping. For European, it'd be $40. For New Zealand, it was going to be $80. Now you're going to get an email that says, by the way, shipping was a bit more than we anticipated. US, you're going to have to pay $35, not $25. That $10 times 50 or times however many they sell, it's going to make up the overage that they did. 10 times 1,000 units. Yeah, $10,000 that they had to pay out of their pocket. I'm making up these numbers, and these numbers are low because our minds can grasp them. It is hard for us as consumers and gamers to understand that when a board game gets up in the $1 million range, not only are you talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of product that have to be moved from A to B, you're talking about shipping costs, right? China, the shippers, their prices are going up. Their fuel's probably going up. Their repair costs are going up. Everything's going up. So the shippers are going to contact China and say, hey, you know that cargo crate that you put on us and we charge you $10,000 to ship it across to the United States, it's now gone up to $12,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 because they can do that. So now China says, we've got all these boxes sitting in our warehouse. We got to get them to America, but you only gave us $100,000 and that covered the cost of printing, but now we don't have any money to ship it. It's coming. It's coming, folks. And I'm not pointing fingers here. I don't care, as I said in the beginning, I don't care what your political stand is on this. It doesn't matter. This is the reality of where we are as gamers. And not just gamers, any hobby, any sport, anything you do out there, prices are going up. And when prices go up, when the water level rises, all ships go up. When the price goes up, everybody's price goes up. And this means those things that we don't think about, like the shipping, right? When it gets here, it has to be stored in a warehouse. Their prices are going to go up. Where I'm going with this is those of us who do a lot of Kickstarters, run them, back them, whatever. I don't know if Kickstarter is worried because we are going to, it's not a political issue. It is an issue. Yeah. I think the gaming hobby is in trouble. I really do. I'm just going to tell you this flat out. I'm long-winded and it's taken me a long time to get here, but this is more of a, this is something I wanted to share with people. I think our hobby is in trouble because we're going to see failed Kickstarters that fail to deliver. I think that's coming. I can't guarantee it. It's not true. It's just based on what I'm seeing and hearing and getting in communication from game companies. It's sort of like this preparation. It's like they're preparing us for the bad news. By the way, we're aware that prices are going up and we're not sure what we're going to do yet. That is red flag. That is red flag language for we don't know what we're going to do and it's probably not going to be great. We could go out of business. We might have to send our backers another invoice to cover shipping plus something. I'm worried for our hobby because I'm worried for our hobby because so much of our hobby is fulfilled by companies like China and other countries that do manufacturing. And this is just starting. It hasn't even gotten up to full speed yet. I was looking at the Kickstarters I've backed recently, and there are a few that had a low funding goal and high. What they're giving is crazy big. They had a low funding goal, and if they had this funding goal and they really needed this, but they weren't able to calculate this, they don't know what this number is. They met their funding goal, but let's say they only got here. Well, they're like, whoa, we raised $500,000 when what they really needed was $1 million. It's those companies that met their funding goal, that exceeded their funding goal. They went ahead and declared it a successful Kickstarter, but they didn't know how to do proper math. And in some cases, it's not their fault, because the tariff stuff just getting started, if everything being equal, if the tariffs weren't there, maybe they had done the math right, but nobody knew. It's an unknown, right? We don't know how. Now, we know China's going to charge X% more, but we don't know if that's legit, because, like I said, their shipping costs are going to go up. So even China right now is like, we know they're hitting us with a tariff, but we don't know yet what the shipping company we deal with, we don't know what they're going to raise their rates on, because it's not their business, right? We all hope we know our own business. We don't know necessarily how other businesses operate. And it's that unknown that I think is really going to. So let me reel this all in. Take this and you think about it, and I welcome your comments either here or the video will go live and you can add comments and stuff like that. Here's what I go back to what I originally said. For anybody out there who is not running a Kickstarter but is planning to, and for companies who traditionally make physical games to sell, we are going to start seeing the digital option more and more, because it's the only way that these companies can keep their head above water, especially the ones that did the math wrong. Companies are going to have to say, you know what, we got these great molds, we got this great board game design, this prototype is great, here's the rule book, but to print it and to get the miniatures made, stuff assembled, is going to be $100 per game from China, which means on Kickstarter, we'll have to list the game for $140, $150. Then they're making a 50% profit margin. But I'm a game creator. I say, listen, as soon as it breaks the $100 mark, your percentage of backers drops from this to this, because I have the statistics, right? I know my business. At some point, the pain threshold, it's different for everybody. We all have our own pain threshold, but at some point, that pain threshold becomes undoable. And companies know this. And we're going to start seeing more and more game companies going, listen, if you want to play our game, we are so happy to help you. We're going to send you STL files and a PDF. And for some of us, that's okay. I love PDF files. I prefer a printed manual, and I will print a book if I need it. STL files could be a problem for me, because I have a resin printer, but I can't use it because I'm allergic to it. Those of you who know me, you've heard the story. I'm not going to rehash it. I'm allergic, very allergic to the resin. Even with gloves and stuff, the fumes, I'm allergic to them. So I have to offload my printing needs for those miniatures, because I could print them on an FDM, but they're going to look like crap, right? He says, oh, FDM's getting really where they can do miniatures. They can, but those could be expensive printers, or they're high maintenance. I'm going to have to offload my STL files to someone who will print them for me. And that costs money, right? They're going to charge me for the resin, for the shipping, for all that. So I worry. I worry for our hobby. I worry for the new game creators. I hope they can survive. I worry for the existing game creators out there who we love their games, and we don't know what's going to happen to them. Are they going to be able to stay in business? Are they going to have to, because they all have families and bills, are they going to have to go get, a different job and give up the game? Um, it's nerve-wracking. It really is. And don't, again, it's, for me, it's not a political thing. It's just, it is what the world is. And things like this are unpredictable and we don't know what they're going to do. And our gaming hobby, unfortunately, I'm not a pessimist. I'm not a pessimist, but I got to tell you, talk to me 6 months from now. Talk to me 6 months from now, and let's see where we are. Um, I worry that our hobby is going to pull in. There's going to be less options, less quality, right? I could be wrong. Guys, y'all have flooded me with events, and I'm sitting here babbling, and I'm not getting to answer them. But some of you, Discourse Minis talks a lot about the GW. Other countries will step up. Other countries will step up, Tyler. The problem, again, this gets back to, and this is just based on my experience working in the manufacturing industry. I was an industrial engineer. Things have changed since I was involved in that world, but not that much. You can't just open a factory here in the US or in Mexico or Vietnam or wherever and just start printing out game boards and miniatures and things like that. It doesn't work like that. Manufacturing is a slow rock, pushing it up the hill until you get it to the top, and then you push it, and then the manufacturing process it's complex. Even with computer-aided design and AI and machines that almost configure themselves, you just don't start a manufacturing process from zero. You just don't. It doesn't work. There is a very slow progress to that. So even if a company like Vietnam or some other company says, "Hey, we'll start taking in manufacturing, and we can do it cheaper because our tariff is lower." Well, great, your tariff's lower. Where's your skill level? Do you have the ability to print 10,000 board games a day like some of these Chinese companies can do? Do you have the workforce? That's a whole different video right now about the workforce, because these are people that are sitting at tables making the things we play with. And there's an ethical side to it, there's a moral side to it, there's a commercial side to it, a consumer side. That's probably for a different video. But there are people that are needed to stuff, and a lot of that skill, unfortunately, Tyler, still resides in China. Some of it's here in the US. We haven't done it in so long that there's a learning curve to it. So there you go. Seize the means of production. Get a 3D printer. Absolutely. One of the best things you can get these days is a resin printer if you're a gamer, because you can print your own minis, and if you're not allergic to it like I am, go nuts. It definitely, Brian Swift told me, I asked him earlier before I got on this video, I asked him, how many miniatures, 28 millimeter, would you estimate you can get from a single bottle, like a liter or half liter? I forget what it comes in. I've got one here. Hang on. Unopened. This is, how much is this? This is a polymer resin. It is, I don't know. Let's open it up. This bottle of resin is 1,000 milliliters. So it is a liter. A liter of resin, according to Brian, you can print 200 miniatures. Think about that. Does anyone know offhand currently what resin runs? Because honest to God, I don't know. I haven't bought resin because once I found out I was allergic, I stopped buying it. I want to say this was maybe $35. Does that sound about right? A liter of gray Elegoo. I want to say I bought this for $35, but but I bought it when I bought the printer, so I may have gotten a price break on it. I don't know. Because I do have I do have that. But think about it. Let's say it is $50 a bottle. I know that's probably way more than it is. 50 divided by 200 is 25 cents per miniature. Think about that. We were talking earlier that Games Workshop can charge you $35 for one miniature if it's a special one. Now, granted, that is those are on sprues, and that's a different type of plastic. Is that ABS? I can't remember what type. It's a harder plastic, but you can get resins that are on par with that. Maybe it costs more. So yet another reason why I think game creators are going to offload, start pushing the hobby towards a do-it-yourself. And listen, Tom at Fat Dragon Games, he has some great models. He does his own models, and then he gives you the STLs for a very reasonable fee. And you here, I got some right here. You where are they? I printed some out. I'm getting ready to. These are, they're like Star Trek style models, right? He designs them, and I printed them out on an FDM printer, not a resin. But it's very reasonable, and I think that is a very good argument that the success of Tom's game, and I don't have numbers, and I don't ask, but it has consistently been his expansions and his rules and stuff have consistently, when he releases them, they're up there in the top sellers. So I suspect there's a lot of people out there that are 3D printing these spaceships and playing that Valkyrie game. Battlefront Valkyrie, I think, is the name of it. That's what I think the future of gaming is going to be, and that is my 1 hour and 10-minute discussion on it. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous for our gaming community. I'm optimistic that things may even out. Maybe cooler heads can find ways to deal with some of this stuff. But the tariffs, they're not going away right now, and they are going to come in, and they're going to hit us in our gaming hobby, and we're going to start seeing it affect companies, and whatever they decide to do is going to affect us as players. So in the news, 104 tariff on China as of today, says Tyler. If that is true, and it doesn't change, that means that when I buy a game from China for $50, 104. Wow. 100%. Let's just round it to 100%. Double anything that a game creator buys, and then of course they're going to mark it up for whatever their profit margin is. Their profit margin could be 20%, 50%, 100%. Every company is different. That Games Workshop has a 100, well over 100% profit margin. Their miniatures are costing less than 25 cents, and they're selling them for $10, $20, $30. So some companies out there probably are going for a more reasonable 20% markup. So if they pay 100, they're going to charge 120 at retail. So, but it is what it is. Let's see. Seize the means. I think the industry is in trouble, but I think your video shows that with work and imagination, the fun of games utilize the narrative. I hope so, Eric. I really do. I think, this video up. I don't want to keep y'all for 2 hours here. I could get on a whole other rant, about where I think not where I think it could be, what I think could be a solution. And I'll just throw this out in 30 seconds. Those of us who've been in the gaming industry long enough, we remember the games that you played with chits, little square tokens or whatever on a mat, and the chit had in it that represented your army or the power or the health and things like that before we went miniatures. We may very well see, I don't think we'll see a return to that, but we may see sort of this nostalgia, maybe, with some game creators offering up games that we would consider low tech, right? Maybe it's a zine format with a die to the printer and print it on cardstock and cut it out. I don't know. We'll see. It's be interesting. Tariffs will be gone in 6 months, says Tyler. I hope you're right. I really do. I hope they're gone in less than that. If it's not 6 months or longer, the gaming industry is in some trouble. really in some trouble. Just go do a browse of Kickstarter right now and look at go search for board gaming and look at some of the games that are currently in funding. And like I said, when you launch a Kickstarter, you're locked in. You can't go back and change the price, the tier prices. Now you can if nobody's backed it, I believe. If it's still got 0 backers, you can lower the price or raise it or whatever. Somebody backs at one of the tiers, it's locked. You can't go in. It's against the rules of Kickstarter. You can't go in and change it. Now there are ways around it. You can create a new tier at a higher price for the same item, and then you can go in and you can do what's called a refund or you can delete the old one. I don't know how ethical that is. I guess there's nothing wrong with it because they don't have to. It's not like they're pushed into the new tier. They have to choose to go and get back in. But it's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth if you kick them out at this price. Oh, go back at this price. It's the same thing. It's a little higher. It's not going to happen. Your comment about using chits totally reminds me of X10 Red Arrow Black Shield. David, I play some games with chits. I'm not going to tell you which ones because I'm embarrassed. There's a couple solo games I still that use chits, and they're fun. I always enjoy them. The tariffs may balls all this stuff up, but we'll still be chatting with each other no matter the country. Yep, that's true. Gamers will play what they have in stock, right? Whatever they have on the shelf, there may be a year of drought. Could be 2 years of drought. We don't know, but there could be a drought coming where we just play what we have, right? And that's okay. I mean, I return to games all the time that I'll play them for a while and they get tired of them and then put them aside and then I'll come back to them. And so, yeah, this may be exactly what we all need as gamers to get some of those board games on our shelves or games on our shelves that have never been played, or maybe the plastic is still on them, and who knows? Anyway, well, listen, my friends, thank you for putting up with me for 20. And I wanted to do some painting, and I really did think I was going to be able to paint and talk about this topic at the same time, but I wasn't able to. So the painting kind of got put aside, and I just focused on you guys. I do not pretend to be an expert, so don't take anything I have said here as law. Just understand that we're all gamers and we're in this together, and we got to figure out how this is going to affect our hobby. And these are just my thoughts. These are my thoughts based on my own personal experiences in the industry. And I always tell people I could be wrong. So I'll leave it at that. Listen, I'll be back. I am going to be out of town Wednesday to Sunday, and it's unfortunate. It was unplanned. I don't have a choice, but when I get back in town Sunday night, probably late, next week, I will do some live painting sessions. I'll do some chat sessions on Discord so I can see you and we can talk face to face. I will get that ramped up. I was planning on doing it this week, and then something came up where I've got to travel. So I do apologize for that. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll be back. I'll still be uploading videos, but no more live chats until Monday of next week. So everybody take care. Thanks for joining me. This is Jim, the Tabletop Engineer. I'll see you.